Today, my friends, we're talking about 360. Now, let me tell you my honest opinion up front with a little disclaimer. 360 for me is super weird. It's super unique. Am I a fan of it? Some experience I've had have been like mind-blowing, incredible. The PlayStation VR stuff is like mind-blowing, incredible. Stuff on YouTube, there's been a couple of videos that I've been super impressed with. Corridor Digital, they did a Where's Waldo video that I thought was amazing. But most videos, it doesn't truly utilize the space. We even struggle with the 360 space because it's a different way of telling stories. With that being said, we're gonna talk today about the different 360 VR cameras out there. Now, there's a lot of different cameras out there. But I'm going to be telling you my experience with the cameras that we own and that we shoot with on a fairly regular basis. So far, collectively, we've done about 20 360 videos, maybe even more than that, because we did a lot of kind of testing and stuff like that. So this is from my own personal experience. These are my own opinions. I was not paid by any of these companies I'm about to talk to. All right, so the first camera we're going to talk about is the Samsung Gear, which is this little guy right here. Now, it has two cameras, it does film in full 360, and it does do 4K. First things first, you should know about shooting 4K. My personal opinion, if it's not 4K or higher, the quality looks awful. Now, even though it says it's a 4K video, when you throw it in a 360 space, what you're seeing is not 4K. All of a sudden, you're dumbing that down because if you're looking at every angle, you're covering a lot. So it ends up being like 360p or less quality. So if you're shooting at 1080p and then you're dividing that by a 360 space, that quality is like the worst thing ever. So if you're watching a 360 video on YouTube, you're definitely going to want to go to the actual little dial and change it to 4K resolution or higher if they have that option. So this is one of our first experiences with the 360 camera. You have to use a Samsung phone to actually kind of control as far as where you're looking, as far as when you're actually recording, you can see it live. So this is a good camera. We did a big video with this camera. We held people and we shot them with this big slingshot back and forth. It was like a big rubber band, essentially. So we did it with this. That was kind of one of our first experiences working with this camera. When you're dealing with the workflow, I'm not a fan of it. There might be ways around it, but we always have to use a PC. We're all Mac people, so we had to kind of like transcode it and do all that kind of stuff with an actual PC and then send it back to the Mac. So it's a bigger process than I would like to admit. The next camera I'm going to talk about is this one right here. Now, first things first, or second things second. This is not your average camera that you're going to be buying for the fact that they're very hard to get and they're very expensive. But this is called the GoPro Odyssey. And when we got it, I want to say we were one of like the first 12 people in the world. So this rig is a 16 GoPro rig setup. So you're probably thinking, why on earth would you want something like this? So for us, when you're seeing something like this experience, you're not seeing it in 3D, you're seeing it in 360, so there's a difference there. And I'm sure you're familiar with 3D movies where you have to watch the goggles. What this does is it replicates the eyes, so this represents one set of eyes, this represents one set of eyes, and you go all the way down, so when you're actually watching the video, there's essentially a divider right here, and you have true 3D, so it actually looks significantly more like you're actually there. So let's look at the heart of the GoPro Odyssey. We just did a video I was telling you about that's coming out very soon with this. I feel it really utilizes the 3D 360 space and something we're super excited about. And it's a narrative that I feel belongs on a 360 platform. So we're really excited about this. Now this can do 8K plus. There's a lot of options with this kind of quality. But look right here. All these cameras are all synced together. So they're all linked together as far as video sync, but also power sync. So you look back here, you have one outlet, and this goes to a big battery pack about this big, and it lasts for a long time. So we can shoot all day with this, and we don't have to put batteries in each one of these GoPros. So this works awesome. Now what happens is we get done shooting, and then we have to load each of these cards into a device, a card reader, that sends them to outer space, or to the cloud as they call it in the business, and they sync it together for you. So they do all the work for you, and then you get it back as one complete file. So this makes your job really easy, and we can use our Macs with this setup. The quality is phenomenal. I think this is one of the best camera rigs on the market. Once again, for your average consumer, this probably isn't the thing you're gonna be purchasing, but as far as like a business, or if you want like the highest quality production, this is gonna be one of the best setups out there that's on the market. And we're really excited to use this. When we come out with our video in a couple weeks from now, we'll actually be showing you and on behind the scenes kind of how we're utilizing this. So stay tuned for that, get excited for that. I usually don't give like, check this out, but this is something like you need to check out just because I feel it's one of the first videos that fully utilizes the 360 technology. And it's like, why tell a story in 360? You need to have a story worth telling that justifies using it. I feel the story we're gonna tell justifies this platform. So for me, this is exciting, but we shot that all on this rig right here. And we put tape right here because this is the master camera. So we hit record here and then it all starts recording on all of them. And we just run everything with one camera, and then we can change all the settings on one camera as well. So let's kind of look in the heart of this, or the bulk of it, is I'm gonna set this down right here, and it comes in a really kind of nice package, if you will. Now, with this being said though, the downside of this is you can't look straight down, and you can't look straight up. But the truth is most of the action you're doing doesn't happen right above you or right below you, as far as for narrative pieces go. With this camera, it can see, even though it doesn't look like it, you can actually see straight up. There is a stitch line right here though. So there's a stitch line on both sides when you're looking. And there's gonna be stitch lines on this as well, but they're not gonna be very noticeable. This one is where, out of all the cameras I'm talking about today, this is where I see the most stitch lines, but they're not bad. We have this as well, a zoom, and it can record in full 360 surround sound. So what does that mean? So it means you as a viewer, as you're watching something happen right in front of you, let's just say a dinosaur, if you look over here, then all of a sudden it'll be with your right ear. So it knows what way you're looking, and it kind of changes the sound based on that. So we actually shot our last video with this. Now, you can shoot it with this, but there's a lot of kind of workflow as far as dealing with that post-production. That's a whole different story. But this is perfect for traveling, and you can take it anywhere you want to go. Now, the next camera I'm going to talk about is, out of all these cameras, it's my favorite to work with as far as everyday use. If I had somewhat of a budget, this is probably the one I'm going to buy. And it is this little guy or girl right here, the 360 Fly. So you can see right here, it's almost identical in size. Now, I'm just going to set these right here. This sees everywhere, up, down, left, right. This sees pretty much from the base up. So it's not seeing right below you. So that's the one downside with this. The plus side with this though is there's absolutely no stitch lines whatsoever. We actually did a video during the summertime where people are going off a gigantic rope swing over the water, over a river on a bridge. And we put this right underneath where they were swinging by, and they were hitting the water, and the water was splashing on the camera. We got these really awesome shots that I was stoked on. We couldn't have done that with any other 360 camera setup out there, at least at that time. This one, we didn't have to worry about any of that, but it works really great. You can watch it all in real time, and yeah, it's just easy because we can shoot it. I hook it right to our computer, and we just start editing in Adobe Premiere, and it's really easy to edit. I'm gonna say this is the easiest out of all the cameras as far as workflow, because you just grab a video file, grab and drop it right in there, and you just start editing just like that. We actually just shot a video a couple hours ago at an aquarium where we took this down below. It was really deep. So we took this to the bottom of an aquarium with sharks. So we actually, if you look over here, we have this, which is an underwater housing for the device. So I can hook it in here, seal the deal, and then start shooting in 360, just like that. And I can be seeing everything from my phone, recording from my phone. So this works out really nice, and this is what we used for that video. So these are our first 3 cameras that we're looking at. Once again, this is my top choice as far as price and convenience. If I'm shooting like big action or something that's kind of high production and I want the 3D experience as well as the 360 experience, this is gonna be my go-to camera, and this is what I've been the most impressed with. So let's talk about prices for a minute. The Gear 360, you're looking about a little less than $300. The 360 Fly, you're looking for around $500. So that's the price difference with these two. Like I said, I prefer this one. There's no stitch lines. I can go in the water with this and not worry about that. With all these cameras, they're all very sensitive to scratches on the lens. So you have to be very careful with this. Don't just throw it in a box and hope it doesn't get scratched, because we learned the hard way that it always scratches, these lenses especially. These traditional lenses, like Ken lenses, they don't scratch as often as these. These are almost guaranteed to scratch. So you have to be super protective. So there's pros and cons to all of them. As far as like action sports stuff, 360 Fly is what I would suggest for that. To me, they're like the GoPro of extreme sports within the 360 world, as far as like easy to use, super high quality. This is comparable if you don't have a big enough a budget, but you can't take this in the water. You are gonna have stitch marks, but you can see completely above you and completely below you. This you can see completely above you, but not below you. And then this is more for narratives, in my opinion. More bigger budget, higher productions, because this is very intensive. They do the stitching for you, but it's still a big process that you have to go through that is time consuming. So that is my thoughts overall on these cameras. I would love to know if there's any other 360 cameras out there that I should be aware of, because we're trying to stay kind of on the cutting edge of 360 technology, and we're trying to learn as much as we can about this. It is a brand new world for us. There's one more that I think is important that I bring up, because it was actually, now that I remember, it was the actual first one we started working with. The 360 Freedom or the Freedom 360. I'm not sure what one goes first. I'm gonna have it pop up right now though, so you can see what it looks like. But that rig was really unique as far as it was a 6 GoPro rig, but they were all facing like different ways, like kind of all over the place. So if you ever saw our Five Nights at Freddy's 360 video, we actually shot it with that rig, and that was with the GoPros in super low lighting. I was really happy with how it turned out, but that was like our first experience kind of diving into that. Out of all the workflows we've dealt with, that one was the most complicated by far. Auto Panner Pro is the software we had to use to stitch the Freedom 360 footage together. And because you're dealing with like a 360 space, kind of like a puzzle almost, because it's all kind of like cookie cutter, it took a lot longer as far as workflow goes, dealing with that footage, but it looked really good as far as quality because you had 6 GoPros together. So that was a couple years back when we first dived into it. Since then, I feel there's other rigs that have come out that work better. Quality is still comparable for sure, but this new technology is really exciting, and it just gets easier and easier to use. So if this is all overwhelming for you right now, just know like a year from now, what I'm talking about, it's gonna already have changed. Like that's how fast the 360 movement is happening, and that's how fast the technology is happening. So it's hard for us even to make like a big purchase with 360 stuff because it changes like 6 months later. So if you're spending a lot of money on software and all this other stuff, it gets expensive. To have like a real 360 experience, I don't think you just have that watching it on the computer or watching it on your phone. You need the 360 Oculus, you need 360 Samsung, the Gear 360. You need a device that's made for that. That's when you truly have that experience, and that's what these things are created for, is for those experiences. So even though you may not fully love it now just off the YouTube experience, there's a lot of big things in store where eventually when these can become more mainstream and you can actually have those headsets, you can have the way they were intended to make them. So don't just judge things saying I hate 360. And that's how I was at first, is I wasn't excited at all about 360, but it was like, this is where a lot of people are putting their money and time into, as far as like big companies buying little companies such as Facebook buying Oculus. Like, those are big moves, so they see the future of that and they're invested in that. So that's why it was important that we got on board with it as well, and we want to become kind of pioneers as far as that goes, as far as kind of ahead of everyone else. When everyone else was kind of the early adopters, we want to make sure we were there before the early adopters. So that was a thought process for us, and that's why it was important for us to kind of get in this space, to kind of work out all the kind of the things wrong with that space, learn from that, and then create better content. So just for references, I talked about several 360 cameras. I think the best way you're going to have as far as knowing what this stuff actually does is to actually check it out firsthand. So I'm gonna leave a couple links down below in the description. Check out these videos for your homework to see how these cameras interacted with these situations. I also have a link that we shot while we were at Easter Island with the Freedom 360 camera rig. We also have a link to that as well, so check that out down below. I wanted to give you like an honest opinion of my experience with 360 cameras, 360 rigs, and what we've learned from it, what we haven't learned from it. And yeah, let me know any other questions you have, and I will do my best to answer those questions down below in the description. Thanks so much for watching and supporting us. As we always say, over and out.